Hi everyone, hope you're all right. This is going to be forming part of the extension task to last week's programming sort of lecture or lesson, I suppose. So similar sort of format really. As you can see, we've got the PowerPoint just here. You'll notice that we have got this pause button, which I will bring up every now and then when I see that it is needed. And essentially, we're just going to go through them bit by bit, and hopefully it'll all make sense as part of that extension to the process blocks that we've been looking at as part of that electronics section. So I'm going to get rid of that pause button for the moment though. So again, you know what I mean, we're aiming for you to push yourself a little bit, work really hard about it, right? Try and be the best, okay? Don't be just a bit average. Try and extend yourself a little bit wherever possible. So let's move on then. Well, last week, okay, we looked at this section here. So this is the previous lesson's recap. So this slide is effectively taken from last week a little bit. It just gives you an idea. It says here, look, I'm going to give you 3 minutes to read through the information on your own, so I'm not going to read through all of this. Okay, I did cover it last week. There is a little video clip there as well, so once you've got the PowerPoint you will be able to select that and it will then link to a bit of a PowerPoint that explains a little bit more and goes over the things that we looked at in terms of the processing of microchips, ICs and all those keywords as well. But today, effectively, what we're going to be looking at is we're going to be looking at the microbit. Okay, I introduced this slightly last week, and this is looking about how you might program a microcontroller. Okay, so this is not a one-time programmable controller, okay, like those PICs that we looked at last lesson, but this is one that you can program yourself. And they are available. We've got some in school, and when we get back we'll be able to have a look at these and have a go with it yourself. But in the meantime, what you can do is online we can have a go at programming this anyway, and it gives you kind of like a module where it kind of views your program via some LEDs and some other bits and bobs as well. So essentially that's the learning objective, what we're going to be looking at today. Just to give you a bit of food for thought as well, okay, a computer programmer earns approximately on an average salary of about £30,000 a year. Okay, that was taken from this website here. So that doesn't necessarily mean it's exactly that. It could be much more in some cases, and obviously starting salaries may be a little bit less. But as an average, £30,000, that's a handsome salary there. So looking at programming, computers and various other things, and editing and so on. So that gives you a bit of an idea. Ideally, what we're looking at then is for you to have a go at creating a program. Okay, the easiest level is to get some lights to come on, potentially getting some text to scroll, some further other outputs, so we're looking at 2 output functions, okay, and then finally for the higher level, ideally looking at multiple output functions. Now, for those of you who do IT or computing, then there are some videos I'm sure that Mr. Chatton or Mr. Connolly has already put up already with regards to how it is that you can program. And they may use Python. Well, for the DT base, for our course, for the GCSE section, right, we don't necessarily need to go into that level of detail. Now, obviously, if you do that in IT or computing, computer science that may be, you'll have a real significant challenge and you'll find this to be a bit of a walk in the park, to be fair. But for the basis of what we need to do, it's basically just having an understanding, a basic understanding of process blocks, right, the different forms that they come in, and having an idea as to what it is and how it is that they work or could be programmed. And that's essentially all we're looking at the moment. So as we move on then, right, essentially what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to go onto the computer, type in Google, type in microbit, okay, and then open up what it is that program. Now, give you a bit of time to think about this question here. What is programming? Okay, so before I go any further, I want you to decide on what you think programming is. You'll notice I've just put that pause button up there for you to have a bit of a think about. So, having had that have that time to pause there, hopefully you should have loaded up that the microbit programming online. Now, there are 2 ways in which you can then program, and notice what I said earlier about this module here, look, and that's the virtual kind of view of it. Well, there are 2 ways in which you can actually program something, either JavaScript or Python, okay? Now, we're going to be looking at the JavaScript option. It's a bit easier to follow, okay? It's less like writing a code where you've got to know all the other bits and bobs that go with it. And And for us, that's not necessary. So essentially all we're looking at is for you to have a go and understand the different commands that we could use. Now, what I have done though is I've included another little video here. So once you're on the actual PowerPoint itself, if you select that hyperlink, what you'll find is there is another video linked to this. Okay, select that, and that will give you step-by-step instructions on how to program this microbit using JavaScript, just like this screen that you can see here. Very straightforward, very simple, and all I would like you to do is I would like you to create your own program. Okay, so play about with it a little bit. Once you've created that program, I do want you to screenshot it, a bit like I've screenshot this one, and on your keyboard you will notice there is a button that says print screen. If you print screen, open it up into Word, Publisher or another format and click paste, it will then paste in your program. So in terms of the program then, and what I would like you to do, well, I'm just going to go back to this section for a moment, because as it says here, look, I can program the microbit to get lights to come on. That's a very basic program. I'd like everybody to at least attempt that as a bare minimum. Most of you though, in terms of your targets, well, we should be aiming at this secured to mastered level. So I'm looking at you to include at least 2 inputs and 2 outputs. Okay, we spoke about inputs and outputs in previous lessons. Going back to this, right, there will be options, look, for inputs just here on that screen, and you'll be able to select and put them in. And obviously all of these little bits down here where it says 0, 1, 2 and so on, we've got 2 switches there. There are the inputs, and by pressing each of these buttons will enable a different outcome. All of which should be clear on this video just here. So that is essentially what I'd like you to do, is an extension to programming, okay, or the process block that we looked at in our previous video. Obviously, once you've done that, you'll be able to kind of self-assess to check your results, just looking at that scale there. And finally, last but not least, what I'd like you to have a go at is I'd like you to have a go at that challenge just there, something we do weekly. Okay, answer all questions, select 3 that you're most confident in. We'll mark all of them, but the 3 are the ones that will get your score. Now, obviously, looking at trying to get the higher level, you're going to need to tackle the questions in the centre, the higher point questions, where you're going to need to write more of an extended answer, okay, or give more information. That is essentially it for the extension on processing, or should I say on the process blocks and programming a microchip. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it there for you to have a go at. Send in your results via Teams or email me direct, and we'll wait till the 3rd lesson next week. Thank you very much. Cheers.